Have a regular ACBL type convention card if you want it blank for notes or just comparisons, say take it. This one I handed out is the ACBL's version of what they call a fat-free convention card. It's what they call a basic one. This is from the ACBL website. If you notice scribbled across the top, there's this little ACBL website information. ACBL has a ton of detailed information online for you to look at, and it's broken down by topic. So if you have a particular interest in looking at a particular issue, you can take a look there. I think that's a more effective way than me trying to cover 40 topics in 15 minutes. That just doesn't make any sense. What I do want to make is some general comments about the convention card. Most people, when they sit there and look at the convention card, the first thing they do, for whatever reason, is hop in the box about no Trump, which makes absolutely no sense. The one thing you do on every board, I'm pretty certain, is you play cards. So the place you should be starting, strangely enough, is the one that always seems to get skipped till the very end, which is the bottom left, which is defense and carding. I'm pretty sure you all are going to be doing that today, is that correct? So let's go there and talk about it. If you notice on the regular convention card, which is why I wanted to hand it out, you have some decisions to make. For example, from ace-king against suits, it's not marked which one you lead. That's something you should have talked about. Whether you play third and fifth or fourth best is something you should have talked about. Whether you card standard or upside down is something you should have talked about. Whether you have a special meaning for your first discard or you just do your normal carding is hopefully something you've talked about. That's a place you want to make sure you have covered. Another thing that you will see that they're kind of lax about in clubs, and the higher up you get, depending on more formal situation, you're supposed to have two convention cards. Both you and your partner need one. If for some reason you ran into a jam today and you left it at home, we'll make you a photocopy. But normally you are expected to have two completed convention cards in your partnership. A lot of people that play with a regular partner, like a mentor-mentee situation, kind of are careful with these things and keep them with them so you don't have to make 8. Now, instead of having to make one for every time, right? You'd like a base one, and then maybe you want to do some augmentation as you go, as you decide you want to add something or take something away. Another thing about conventions, you should realize, especially the mentees, you need to tone down what you play. Mentors don't always know the fancy agreements or stuff that you know. You play the stuff that the person who has less experience is comfortable with. You don't keep trying to coach them up and add something 10 minutes before the game. This is not the way for them to enjoy themselves and not the reason you're here. The time for coaching them up to learn new stuff is after the game, between games. That's when you're ideally wanting to talk and add or take away or modify or fix an understanding. Game time is for playing. Everybody get what I'm saying in that point?
Yes.
I understand if you have a quick question you can answer with a yes or a no. That's not a bad idea. Do we play Stamen? Do we play key card Blackwood or 1430? That's a kind of quick answer that I would advise. But you don't want to get into long discussions. They're distracting to both you and your partner trying to remember what you play. Now is not the time. Another thing, if you notice, I put on the top here is something that you're all supposed to have known. You notice on a regular card, everything's coded in black, blue, or red. Black means it's just a regular bid, you don't have to alert. If it's in blue or red, an announcement or an alert, it's required to be visual and verbal. Visual means you're supposed to be using the alert card. When you say transfer, not only are you supposed to be saying transfer, you're supposed to be presenting your alert card.
I've never seen that in my life.
Okay, well, sorry you weren't taught properly. This has been as mandatory as breathing. If you attend the Nationals, it's in the daily bulletin every day. It's mandatory, it's not an option. It's supposed to be enforced everywhere. We're gonna try to teach you the good habits that you're supposed to have, whether you know them or not. Now would be a great time to get started, correct? As I like to point out, most of you are relatively young in bridge. You don't have a lot of bad habits yet. So let's teach you a few of the ones that will serve you well. This has been mandatory for 10+ years. This isn't something they started recently. You're required whenever you say alert or make an announcement. Like you open a club and you go could be short, it's visual and verbal. Or you say transfer, it's visual and verbal. Or you say alert. When you say alert, by the way, you may not offer an explanation unless asked. Does everybody understand that? Alert means this doesn't mean whatever. You may ask when it's your turn to bid. You may not offer an explanation unless requested. Does that make sense? Another thing people don't know is you're a mentor. You're trying to take care of your mentee. You may not ask what a bid means for your partner's benefit. It's their responsibility to ask when it gets to them. Mentees, you're expected to know that if you need to know what a bid means, you ask when it's your turn to bid. If you're a mentor, the rules specifically bar you from asking information for your partner's benefit. That's in the law book. Does that make sense? How many people are a director in here or have looked at a law book? So you're familiar with this idea. If you're familiar with the law, you may not, it specifically says it, you may not ask bids for your partner's benefit. Now that we got some of the hard stuff out of the way, when you alert, announce, or whatever, a couple more general comments from the bottom that the ACBL likes to offer you. They will tell you that when you play conventions when you're first starting out, less is better. Why do they say that? You find when you first start playing that if you're playing a bunch of stuff and you're only so familiar or comfortable with what you're playing, it gets to be a bit of a burden on your mind trying to decide what it is you're going to play. The less stuff you're thinking about other than playing when you're actually playing, the better off you're going to be. There's nothing wrong with playing a pile of conventions as long as your mind retains them. For most of us who are just getting started, it's not so easy to remember that stuff all the time, correct? Yeah. Gets to be a bit much at times. Most of us have learned this stuff over time, so don't panic. You don't know 29 conventions like some of us, or 200 or 38. It doesn't matter. You're here to play cards and have a good time. That's where it all starts. Conventions come over time. You'll get interested in some conventions because you see an opponent do something and say, I want to do that. I like how that works. Your interest will drag you along to different spots. Your mentee may have some suggestions for the mentors that you don't want to do because they're not right for them at this time. Or your mentor may have some suggestions from you, mentee, because they see a spot where something could help you. Okay? It's a two-way street here. You got to play stuff you both figure out. Any other general questions I can enter on convention cards for you?
Just quick, when you, the alert card, so if you open, partner opens one no trump, and you
You
say.
see that's in
I see
blue,
it
right?
blue,
So
I
so
just
many
something
partners
I never
announcing
know.
the range,
Okay.
exactly. So a partner opens a no trump, the partner is supposed to, every time, take out the alert card and state the range. 15 to 17, I'm guessing is what most of you play, is that correct? So even though we all know what we probably play range-wise, each time your partner opens a no trump, you're supposed to alert. But do you notice when you overcall a no trump, it's in black? Let the silence prevail. You don't announce a no trump overcall. It's in black. Everybody got that? Seems like you ought to. It's not what they decided. Sorry, I don't go to all the meetings to understand why they do and don't do stuff either. Anyhow, any other questions I can answer? I would encourage, yeah, go. Okay, that's a fair question. You will find when you play bridge, no matter where you are, sometimes you will find a defective box that does not have a stop or alert card. All I do is I reach in and I grab something and I tap it in the middle of the table. I've done something visual, I've done something verbal. Just make do with whatever there. So I'll just grab something and tap the table, or I'll take my finger if I can't find anything and tap the middle of the board. The idea is it's your responsibility, according to the law, to make sure your opponents were advised about an announcement or an alert. You are required to do it visual or verbal. If you don't do both, you get penalized, not the opponent. It's your responsibility to make sure the opponents, you got their attention. You're required each time to do it both ways. Yes, I know we don't like to. I understand, as you said, you may not have heard about this, but it doesn't change the facts. That's what the responsibilities are. Yeah.
I have a question. Say you look at this card here, and the person does a takeout double, and you want to know what it's through, and you look at their card, and there's no answer there.
Well, you notice it's supposed to be filled in, correct? It's possible that when you play with somebody for the first time, you didn't get a chance to fill it out, correct? Your answer then is we have no agreement. You didn't discuss it, it hasn't come up, you have no way of knowing, that means you have no agreement. If on the last board prior it went 4 diamonds double and you found out it's takeout, you have a de facto agreement, correct? Something happened to cause you to have an idea what it would be. We haven't discussed it, by prior experience says it's good through blank. You are obliged to tell them that. That is in effect an agreement. Does that make sense? Agreements are not always done by discussion, they're done by what you see and what's happened in your partnership. Yeah.
What if your partner fails to alert?
Great question. Everybody hear this question? What do you do when partner fails to alert? You play bridge till the hand is done with the auction period. Then there's a divergence. If you're on declaring side, you're supposed to tell the opponents that there's been a failure to alert. Technically speaking, the law book will tell you you're supposed to call the director, so he can ascertain, or she, what might have happened had the alert been given. So if they claim, well, I would have bid this, it's recorded before the hand was played, not after. They don't get a fielder's choice. You understand the point? They might give one answer before they play the hand and a different answer later. You want that information now. They might have a chance to make a lead directing double had they been given the correct information, correct? So it's possible there's damage. That has to be taken into account. If you're on defending side, you may not say anything until the play of the hand is completely over. Then you call the director. You may not attempt to rectify it while you're on defense, because it has the effect of waking up your partner who may or may not realize there was a failure to alert. Has everybody got that? You may not tell them if you're on defense till the very end of the hand and all the cards are played. You tell them before you go on to the next board there's been a failure to alert. A lot of times it won't matter. Don't lose any sleep over it. It's part of bridge. People forget to do stuff. It's a normal occurrence. But accept that fact and move on, okay? That's why we call it friendly competition. You do it with a certain class, it's still competition, correct? Both elements are an essential part of playing real bridge. Have fun today.
What if there's a failure to alert, but in fact, there was a failure for me, and then I didn't recognize it.
Then the other person will be saying something at the appropriate time, be it before the play begins if you're declared side or at the end. Either one of you is under obligation to say something.
Not everybody has an alert card in their house.
I'm in the blue or the
Are you done?
I hope so. Anybody need an alert card, look for one from another box.